a big question. This is the biggest question that indie film producers always ask. Most indie films do not have the money to shoot with union crews, but they can figure out how to navigate union actors, so SAG versus non-SAG. And that's because SAG has different levels. So they've made it affordable. They have their different levels that you can shoot at to make it affordable for actors to come in. But there's, dealing with the union can have its issues and its challenges. So can you talk about, can an indie film find what they want generally non-union, or do you really need to go union? And I know it's hit and miss on each thing.
Right. It's definitely possible. Will you get as many choices? No. Will you get the same caliber? Not always. And if you're looking for something very, very specific, it might be more challenging. However, nowadays you have a thing called FICOR, which is an actor who's SAG and also non-union. So it's a tier that they drop down from SAG and are able to do non-union.
Okay, so we're back and we're going to talk today about how to do casting for an independent feature film. So I've invited our casting directors on the movie, Miriam and Candace, who will introduce themselves in a second. And this is very important to get this right. I know that a lot of indie filmmakers, you're going to say, do I really need a casting director? You can cast yourself potentially. There are websites that you can do it with and lots of other ways to do it. But I found in my experience that dealing with a professional casting director really makes the job much easier and smoother and helps make the production better. So there is an expense. It's just one of those expenses that I think is actually worth it. And I'm very conscientious, as you all know, with my expenses, but I've experience that this is something that I think is worth investing in. So I'm going to let Miriam and Candace tell them about first. You can introduce yourselves if you don't mind and what you guys do. And then I'm going to ask you some questions about doing it for our film. Thanks.
Great.
By the way, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Our pleasure.
I'm Miriam Hoffman.
Candace Bernstein.
And we are casting directors, and we joined forces in 2019. But before that, we were two individual casting directors. I came from the scripted world.
And I came from the unscripted nonfiction. And together we joined forces.
Yes.
So tell us what you do. Like, why do we need casting directors?
Well, I think that you definitely need casting directors because we have the insight on how to get an actor to where the director and the writer, they want them to be, and it's obviously a collaborative effort because you have the conversation with the director and the writer to see what type of character you're looking for, but we're able to see a diamond in the rough and get them there.
So, but okay, by the way, Miriam and Candace are both in Los Angeles. I mean, we're shooting this film in San Diego, but so one might ask, why would I use a Los Angeles-based casting director as opposed to a San Diego-based? And my answer is that the talent pool is much bigger in Los Angeles. It'll give us more breadth of finding the right people. And, just because they're based in Los Angeles doesn't mean that they can't access the databases elsewhere. So, they can clearly see who the performers are in San Diego or Orange County, anywhere
across the country.
Yeah.
And beyond we've cast things for Spanish markets and, in Spain,
international,
and, Italian markets and all of that. So it's not just.
Okay. So Candace, a lot of indie producers say, do I need to spend the money on why spend the money on a casting director when potentially they can do it themselves on a low budget indie feature?
Well, because we know how hiring a casting director, we know how and where to find the right talent for you and where to reach out and see, cast a wider net than perhaps you would, with the knowledge that you have. We just have a wider, this is what we've done for 20 plus years. So we know we have good relationships with agents and managers as well, if that's the route you want to go. We also know where to go if you want to find that unknown talent as well. We just have the knowledge and the wherewithal. And also casting director, when we're working with actors in auditions, if we see something about that actor, we know how to work with them to get to where you would perhaps, be interested in them because we see something special with them, and we know how to work with them to get what out of them what you guys would like.
Yeah. So I
And
agree
you
with
wouldn't
that.
know that. You wouldn't know that, right? If you see one audition from this person and you're like, nah, pass, 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 pass. Well, we see something a little bit different, and we want to call them back and work with them to see if we can get them to where perhaps you would like them to.
Well, I would add to that also, because you are in this professionally and you cast for so many different roles and different projects, that, I mean, last time I worked with Miriam, she said to me, you know what, I know what you're looking for. And we don't have to waste a lot of time, calling in hundreds of people. I'm just going to call in the right people, and let's just do this. Cause I know pretty well the whole, a good chunk of the database who's out there, cause I've done it for so long. And that made life much easier for me because you knew the roles that we wanted to fill, the types of characters we wanted to cast. And you just said, let's just cut to the chase. I mean, it's low budget and we don't have a lot of time and resources to audition hundreds of people, and we don't need to. I know I can make this easier. And you did. That's why, that's happened before. I shot in Toronto. I used a casting. She said, Jeff, I'm telling you, I know exactly who's going to play that role. Now you don't know that because I've seen all the people and you haven't. So I'll put, 10 or 15 people in front of you. You can go through the motions, but I know who you're going to choose because it's going to be an obvious choice. And she was right. So that's what I think the real value is that who the performers are out there, the talent, and we don't. And yeah, you could put them in front of us, but you've already seen them audition for so many other roles. So you can pinpoint it a lot more accurately probably than we can. And like when you say the diamonds in the rough, I agree with you. You've seen people who've come in who probably shouldn't even audition, but the odd time something quirky happens and say, hey, maybe this could be the right fit. And we would probably never stumble across those people. So I think there's good value there.
Well, I also think, you see the top 15 people that we show you. That's what you get out of a casting director. We have to sit through, some people, like the 50 other ones that you might not even know that we even look through to find you the right people for, that role too. That's what you get when you hire.
Fair enough, but it's also a style.
Yes, of course, but we do,
No, but I'm saying as a director, and I'm directing the movie,
right.
I said to Miriam, I don't want to see 100 people.
Right, but that's what our job is. Our job is to do all that other work that you don't see too, and bring you the people we know that you would be right for.
Yeah, but there are some directors who want to see everybody. They want to see all the recorded tapes. They want to sit through all that. So it's just my style.
They still don't. I'm kidding. They still don't.
Yeah. All right, let's cut to
for people.
A big question. This is the biggest question that indie film producers always ask. Most indie films do not have the money to shoot with union crews, but they can figure out how to navigate union actors. So SAG versus non-SAG. And that's because SAG has different levels. So they've made it affordable. They have their low budget, indie, different levels that you can shoot at to make it affordable for actors to come in. But there's, dealing with the union can have its issues and its challenges. So can you talk about, can an indie film find what they want generally non-union, or do you really need to go union? And I know it's hit and miss on each thing.
Right. It's definitely possible. Will you get as many choices? No. Will you get the same caliber? Not always. And if you're looking for something very, very specific, it might be more challenging. However, nowadays you have a thing called FICOR, which is an actor who's SAG and also non-union. So it's a tier that they drop down from SAG and are able to do non-union.
What's it called? FICOR?
FICOR. Financial.
It's FICORE. I can't remember what it stands for.
I can't. It's financial.
So it's an acronym.
If you didn't make as much money, in the union, and you still need to work, you're able to then do non-union work as well, right? So and especially with the strike and all of that, a lot of people didn't make that much money, so you get a little bit better.
So
quality.
you guys are in the biggest talent base in the world. I'm going to say Los Angeles would be first, maybe New York second. I mean, there's other places, obviously Atlanta. So you have a big pool to choose from. Do you find that a lot of young new actors, or not even have to be young, just people who are getting into it, who are talented and haven't gone into the union yet, is there enough of a pool often to be able to find that? And why would we want to use that pool?
I definitely think it's possible. I think both are possible. Because as you said, SAG has made it easier for independent films to make a SAG production using SAG actors. But I mean, you can always find people.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
yeah,
I love discovering new talent that
right,
is untapped, but the proven talent, is more predictable, right?
for sure. And
The
a shinier
experience.
name, and maybe it will help sell it better. I mean, there's that. That's the other reason why one would go union.
Okay, which leads to the next biggest question, which is, do I need recognizable talent in a film in order to sell it? Now, to me, that's a distribution question.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay. Now, so assuming you want to get some, maybe one recognizable name or something like that. Now, I'm going to I tell all indie filmmakers, forget A-list unless it's their project and they're behind it. You're wasting your time with A-list because you don't have enough money. They're not going to do it. They want a bigger shoot, but you could get what I call, say, maybe B plus, recognizable, but willing to do it at the budget level. So let's talk about that. Are there people out there that will work at either SAG scale or just above it who are recognizable, or is that a pipe dream?
Possible. It's definitely possible if they like the script
It's
and
personal to them, right? If it's something that really
resonates. And also, you caught them in a break in between things.
But would they work at SAG scale, or would it have to be?
Possibly.
Possibly.
And also I think maybe there's like, that's not our thing, but a back end or something. I don't even, that's not my thing. But if it's something really personal to them, perhaps. I mean, you never know unless you ask too. So.
All right. So let's say it's not personal to them, but you're willing to make it financially viable. What would that look like? I mean, how much above scale would you have to pay? Let's say let's say you're doing a SAG moderate low budget, which is $700,000. It's 250 to 700. I think that's what it is, and I think the daily rate's 420 or something like that. What would you have to pay to get, say, a B plus list person? Would it be 1,000 a day, 5,000?
I think that's it. It depends, and we can't really answer that because it depends on the person. It depends on their agent. It depends on so many factors,
variables, and also the time. If you want them in for a 1-day shoot, right? It all depends though, because there's so many different factors with each situation. But never give up too. Like if you really firmly believe you want to go after someone, it doesn't hurt to inquire either. If
and then maybe you also give them that. She sort of brought it up. You give them back end points, or you give them producing credits. Like there's ways to sort of make and sweeten the deal,
entice them into.
Okay.
Something.
By the way, this is Jared. Meet
Hello.
Miriam and Candace. Okay, so we're just talking about B-list actors. So first of all, I'm going to suggest to indie filmmakers that they should not mess around with back end. It's so messy. It is just so darn messy, especially if they're SAG. But sometimes if that's the enticement, then you have to do it. I've had experience with it, and it's very messy later on. So just on the I'm going to give you guys a pitch. I've had experience going after B plus people, and I've had some in my movies. But I can tell you that as a producer, you can never get to their agents. It takes a casting director to do that for you.
Correct. 100%.
Literally, I've tried, and they wouldn't even answer my calls. but the minute I got a casting director, then we were in the game. So that's another compelling reason to use a casting director.
Mhm.
Okay. So now in your experience, and you guys have cast a lot of low budget indie films, so you know the story. What is sort of the realistically the problems that indie film producers slash directors encounter? Do they come in with the wrong expectations, with the wrong level, like, you know, sort of budget levels, or what if you had to give an indie filmmaker advice on how to navigate this process as seamlessly as possible, what preparation or what would you say?
I would say make the schedule as condensed as possible.
The shooting schedule,
Yes.
meaning fewer days or fewer locate when you say condensed, what is fewer shooting days?
All the above.
All of the above. I mean, to entice like a B plus actor, you want to really condense it so they're, you know, you're not wasting their time. And they're
Okay.
more likely to do something if, you know, it's all like condensed and together versus like splayed out through the week or the month.
Okay, now what if forget the B plus actor, just the regular process. So now we're shooting, say, 3 weeks. What have you seen mistakes that produce? Do you generally deal with the producers or the directors or both?
Both.
Okay, so what advice would you give to an indie filmmaker? I mean, I'm going to say be very organized and have a shooting schedule and a day at
Yeah.
a days, so that at
Yeah.
least you've got something to work with. But what other things have you seen along the way that would have made life better and easier?
Hmm.
I mean, finished script, right?
Well, but no, because I mean, yes, a finished script, but you know, actors they understand that the script is always changing and moving and living and breathing. So that's fine. I think just a competent crew so that when you're on set, everything moves as smoothly as possible. Now, of course, they understand that this is a low budget indie film and everybody wears many hats on that type of situation, but try to make it as professional and seamless as possible.
Mm-hmm. But the cast isn't going to know that until they show up on set.
Correct.
Yeah.
So you're asking prior to it to make
Prior.
them want to.
But I would also be, you know, with the director and the producer, be open to the actors that are presented to you too. Don't have such close, you know, your expectations you can be surprised by what is presented to you, because sometimes you have such, you know, I want this person or this expectation. And if you're so close-minded, it's not going to work. You know, you're not going to be happy and you're not going to get what you want. But if you're more open-minded to what is out there as far as a cast, you could be surprised as well, and it could flow much better.
I agree. Listen, I think it was you, Miriam. I can't remember because I've dealt with several casting directors, but I'm pretty sure it was you who said to me one time, even though you have this vision of this character, what about this person? And just twist it a little bit and play it this way, because she's super talented and she can go in this direction, and you know, you should give it a shot because it might work for you.
Yeah.
You know, some directors would get their nose out of joint. You don't tell me what my vision is and what I'm looking at. But me as a director, I actually appreciate that. I appreciate when you say, hey, I've seen this person in this other role. I know that she has this range, and maybe you should consider rethinking this to fit her in, because it might work and you'll get a great performance. So I feel like you're doing us a favor when you do that, directors.
I mean, the director should trust the casting director because, again, it's, you know, a team effort.
Yeah.
And if you don't believe in your casting director, you're going to have a lot of issues, I would think.
I agree with that, but because I rely on your expertise a lot, more so than maybe I'm more flexible maybe as a director when it comes to that kind of thing. Okay, now I want to ask you, in terms of low budget indie, again, we're talking low budget indie filmmaking, right? So you guys started this, and you said, Miriam, you said, I come from the scripted world, and Candace, you come from the unscripted world. So when are you talking on the, first of all, I don't believe anything is unscripted, by the way. I think that I think
Okay.
they give
Nowadays
they
more
give
so.
direction. They say, here's talk about this, and this, and bring this up. Now, I'm not going to give you the words to use, but I want you. Here's the story and the plot line and all that. So,
Producer, yes. Repeat
but
after what I said. Yeah.
but when you're doing that, are you looking at a different talent base? Like, are there people who are better in non-scripted, more natural, or more? I mean, is it a different group of people?
Um, well, I would, yes. Well, nowadays it's a little bit different because everybody knows more about nonfiction. But, across the country, going into small little towns, people have never thought about being on TV, but now everybody, I mean, you have to live under a rock now to not know, also with social media, everyone's an actor or a performer. And so things have changed. But
But you're
I think
saying, like,
non-scripted, you are who you are, right? You're not being acting as somebody else per se, right? It is your expertise. You are that.
You're not portraying a role.
You're not portraying a role. You can't take anything away from who you are because that is genuinely who you are. As an actor, you're acting as somebody else.
yeah, but
If that makes
like,
sense.
it makes sense. But like, I saw Sylvester Stallone and his family on the Today Show the other day.
Yeah.
Last week when Carl Weathers died. So they interviewed them,
Sure.
and so they're doing that reality show. But they're all sort of, I'm going to call them all actors. I mean, his daughters are all sort of performers. He's definitely a performer. So when a camera goes on them, they're themselves, yeah, because they're playing themselves. But I think they're stepping it up a little bit and playing it. I mean, how can you not? There's a camera on you.
Definitely. No, I mean, I think Hollywood is different. If you're talking about Hollywood, actors, families, they've been in the business, they've been
But
around it for so long that it
but
is what it's
that's a non-scripted series. You would call
that.
it.
Well, that is right for sure. But I think also, it's hard to say these days because everyone's just so jaded anyway, but
Yeah.
back in the day when it really was reaching out to people who had no idea or expectations of ever being reached out to. I think that's more so what I'm talking about back in the day when I, would reach out, let's say polygamists that would have never thought they'd be on television, on a show, but they are who they are. You can't take it away from them. And that's their belief. And they're just showing their lives. Yes, maybe you put it on a little bit more, but.
Right. Okay, just switching gears back to sort of how far ahead of the actual first day of shooting should a director or producer engage your services?
Well, it depends on if you're going to go down the route of making offers, because offers you want to pad in some time, and that would probably be about a week to 2 weeks per offer. So just to strip it down, an offer would be to a bigger name actor. So the offer goes to the agent or manager. The agent and manager reads it first, and then they send it off to their client to read the script and respond. And so it can take some time. So, I would say you would want to start engaging like at least 2 months out.
Yeah. So I've engaged you, almost 3.5, almost 4 months out. And
Right,
you and I had a discussion, and you said, let's not put the offers out to the regular, not B plus list talent yet, but like the regular talent just yet, because it might be too far out. I mean, is there?
For sure, there is a too far out, but the reason we started early is a different reasoning, because we were doing an experiment of if we think we can find people that are non-union and qualified for this specific person.
So then that takes a little bit more time. So let me just explain that to everybody who's watching. So I said, if there is non-union talent available, I would be willing to consider that. As a matter of fact, in some ways I would prefer it, not because I don't, nothing to do with the talent. It's the union rules, the posting, the bonds, all this kind of stuff gets a little irritating, but that's the way it works. So if possible, I would love to go non-union. And so we're going to explore that world first. We'll take a little bit of time. And if that doesn't work, then we have enough time then to go down the union route.
Right.
So, and if you, as a producer director, if you have enough time and you're well planned out and you want to explore that, then you got to just give it a little bit more time.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, Sally, Jared, do you have any questions? I've got a few more, but I don't want to hijack the whole call.
Yeah, so I have a question more about kind of the process when a director is looking for a casting director. What does that process kind of look like from your end? Let's say a director does choose to work with you. What kind of materials are they preparing? Maybe for first-time directors who are super unfamiliar with the process, and is there like a week by week process that kind of looks like? Would you be able to explain that?
Go for it.
Well, so I've not worked with first-time directors as in that they've never done this type of process. But if we were to do that, we would walk them through each of the steps. And so the first step is to do a breakdown, and whether the director or the writer wants to write up the breakdown or they have us write up the breakdown is released onto platforms. There's Breakdown Express, Casting Networks, casting workbook now, Casting Frontiers. There's a whole bunch. And you post the roles that you're looking for. And then we would go through the submissions, and usually each role probably has over 300 submissions. And from there, we select, knowing, because we've had this discussion with the director and the producer, we select, a fair amount of people to self-tape. And certainly now in the age where we are, it's a little less live in-person auditions. We have them self-tape. And so we go through those self-tapes, and the people that we know are completely wrong, we won't forward on. And then the people that we think that are great, and also there could be something interesting there, we send on to the director and whoever wants to take a look. And then
when preparing for the auditions, we'll work with the director sometimes to say, or the sides, is this the right, is this the sides that you're good with, for this first round of casting for the actors to read. Sometimes, we'll pick them. Sometimes the directors feel strongly that they'd like to see this one scene be read for the first audition as well.
And then, no, I did forget that. And then from there, they would pick, the people that they want to see back in callbacks or chemistry reads, and it could be live or over Zoom as well.
And then, so are you guys
is live better than Zoom? Did you find that there's
I prefer live because there's something to be said about being in the room with somebody. However, in the first round, I find it better that we just see what people could do. The problem with a self-tape, though, and I always say this, is you have to have a good reader. If you don't have a good reader, then it's going to mess up your whole audition.
I mean, I think it gives people more opportunity because more people can self-shoot, as opposed to if we're doing live, you only have so much time in each day to bring people in. So you never know who you might find on the self-tapes. But true, live is always great because then you can direct and give a little, let them do it again if you feel it.
I just want to explain something because you made an assumption that everybody knows it.
Yeah.
A reader is somebody who reads the other lines back to you while you're doing your self-taping. So they're off camera, you just hear their voice, or sometimes they're on camera, but usually off camera, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, Sally, go ahead.
And then just correct me if I'm wrong, so you guys work primarily off of the breakdown and not off the scripts? You guys aren't reading whole scripts when you guys are casting?
No, we read the whole script.
The actor doesn't have the whole script.
Unless you want them to have the whole script, then you can post the script. Usually that happens after the first round.
Got it. And then
it's entirely up to the writer and the director if they want to post a script, and that's totally fine.
And then would you guys ever maybe if you guys have an actor that you guys like or the director likes, do you guys ever send the script to kind of persuade, kind of how you were mentioning earlier with like the B plus actors to try and get them to want to participate in the film?
So that would be an offer, most likely, unless you had like a really close relationship with, like, a B plus actor is my best friend, then I would maybe, I don't know. I mean, it still has to go through the agent. Actually, I should retract that. It still needs to go through the agent and the manager.
Because even if you're best friends, like you have the best relationship, that
it puts them in an awkward
puts
position.
them, because most likely they'll be like, sure, I'll do it, and then reach out to my agent or my manager, and they're the ones who actually, because you don't want to ruin any relationships.
Right.
They're the ones who usually take over and really say how it is.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching this episode of We're Making a Movie. Make sure to subscribe to stay tuned for our next episode.